this. Okay. So Stephen will get on here at 10 o'clock. It's 9:06 now. He'll get on at 10 till 10, but his presentation won't start until 10 o'clock. I thought what we could do, because we'll have him in the center, but do you all know how to raise your digital hand?
Yes.
Because if you raise your digital hand on my screen, that pulls you up to the top. So when he wants to see everybody's shawls, I'll say, raise your digital hand if you've got a shawl to share, and then I can share everybody's across the top of this. You know, it's easier for me to find people to share their shawls with him, okay? Because I think he's going to want to see everybody's shawls.
Judy,
I worked on mine like crazy yesterday. It takes me 20 minutes to do one stripe. And there are a lot of stripes to go. I considered staying up all night to finish this, but then I thought better of it about 9 o'clock. I thought, nah.
I did the same thing. I worked like
I would have had
crazy.
to stay up all night to finish it.
So.
I figured there was no way I was going to get it done. I blame the crew.
Judy.
Yes, good morning, Judy.
Are you in your new house?
I am.
Judy did a Herculean task.
No kidding.
She moved in like 2 days from her house to another house in like 2 days.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Where did you move to, Judy?
I just down near Allen, Ming and Allen,
The High Grove area.
Highgate. Yeah.
Highgate.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my granddaughter lives off of Allen, but out farther.
Well, we're at the
Out
end of the
past
road. You can't go any
Hegeman.
further. Yeah, you can't go any further than
Can
Ming.
you go in through the back, or do you have to wind through the front?
We're in the back, so there's a
Okay.
gate.
Is there an entrance?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if that'll remain the main entrance forever or not, but they have it. I don't know. It's kind of all sectioned off in different areas. We have our own gate.
That's
But
good.
There's a gate to get in, but right now it's just open because of the construction. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
They're building Pam's house.
Oh, how far away is she from you?
I don't know. She doesn't know what street she's going to live on.
I'm gonna find out. Do you go in, Judy, do you go in the last gate?
Yeah.
Okay, that's where I went in too, so.
Yeah, that's the whole area. I don't think there's another gate that you can go in.
Okay.
There's
Well,
not.
I'm gonna look for the map she sent me.
Okay.
I'm the first street, so you can't, or the second street. I don't know, something like that.
So we're going to start the guild meeting now. There's Claire. She showed up in the nick of time.
All right.
So, we're going to start the guild meeting now. It is being recorded, and you will be able to watch the replay on YouTube. Once I get it up on YouTube, I will send out the link. It's a private link, so only people who get the link can view it on YouTube. Okay, so it's not for general people to look at. But in case people can't attend the guild meeting in person, they can watch the replay. Or if you just want to watch the replay, and you can skip right to Stephen's part if you want, and watch him over again. So do we have any new members today?
Yes.
Lisa, can you introduce yourself a little bit?
My name is Lisa Spencer, and I actually live in Auburn, Washington. And I met members of this lovely guild in Portland at a retreat I was at. And they were so incredibly nice. And I was like a guild of one up here. So I'm
Hi,
incredibly
Lisa.
have us
I didn't see you. Hi.
Hello. I'm excited to join you all. So
Yes.
thank you for having me.
We're a
of
very
course.
friendly group, and we have quite a few people actually from outside of Bakersfield right now. Let me see on my screen. We have Francoise. Can you see Francoise, Lisa? She's waving.
Yes.
She lives in Lyon, France. And
went
over there
first.
is Fatima. Wave your hand, Fatima. She lives in Portugal.
Wow.
And then down here, we also have Brenda, who you just see her picture right now. You can't see her live, but she lives in Pasadena, California. And I think Dimitri should be on here pretty soon. She lives in South Carolina. But we have people from all over, and mostly it's because we do these virtual meetings. And we do plan on, once we are able to get back in person, we do plan on having an in-person guild meeting, but being able to transmit it virtually still for those people who don't live close enough to attend the meeting in person. So we haven't quite figured out all the details yet, but we will. You know, this whole last year and a half's been a big learning curve, and I think we've stayed on top of it the whole way. We currently have 120 guild members.
Oh, good.
I
Well,
think.
where are they?
Yeah, where are they? I want to know that too. Okay, now, it has not been an official board vote yet, but it looks like our dues are going to go up to $40 next year. I'm just giving you a heads up. That's because we pay the speakers. We have international speakers, one every month, or just about, we'll probably have 10 a year, because in June we do Worldwide Net and Public Day, and in December we have a holiday meeting, so we don't have a speaker. So we'll have 10 speakers a year, and we pay for those speakers. Your guild dues go towards paying for those speakers. And I think that $40 a year to see 10 international speakers is pretty darn a good deal.
Yes.
So just a heads up that that's what it's going to be. If that creates hardship for you, let any one of the board members know, because we do have a fund for scholarships for if anyone has a hardship with the cost for the guild. And it is confidential. We don't advertise that you requested a hardship fee. So if anybody needs that, just let any one of the guild. So if you're a board member, raise your hand so everybody can see who the board members are. So Maria Oot, Renee Petrowski, Jackie Rickles, Mary Morgan Harris, Judy, who just disappeared. Where did she go? She was on there, and when she raised her hand, she disappeared. And so these are, and Claire is our membership chairperson, and so on and so forth. So this month, the book club is just met the first 2 weeks in November, and Amanda down there, would you like to talk a little bit about the book club, Amanda?
I would. So this, we are splitting book club up. We're reading The Last Bookshop in London right now. And so we read the first half of the book, that is through chapter 11 in November. And then we're taking a couple weeks off because of the holiday. And then we're coming back December 1st, and we're going to talk about chapters 12 through 16. But if you haven't joined us yet, you have plenty of time to start the book and get through chapter 16 before we meet December 1st. We meet online on Zoom. We'll meet the first 2 Wednesdays in December, the 1st and the 8th. And then we're going to take a couple weeks off for the holidays. But I think like we did last year, we're also going to do a special winter break book club where we come together. I think it's December 29th. We'll meet at 7 p.m. on Zoom, and we'll talk about our favorite holiday books. Usually I read aloud some books and maybe some stories. And it's a really good time to just drink tea and sit around and knit and have a little social event. So you don't have to read anything ahead for that one. And actually you don't for regular book club either. We're happy to have people just sit and visit and listen. Some of the books we read have movies associated with them, and people watch the movies instead. But it's a really good time. Usually we socialize from 7 p.m. to 7:30, and then from 7:30 until 8:30, we talk about what we read in the book during that time. So anyway, there are a couple opportunities to join us coming up in December. And then also mid-December, we'll be voting on our book for January. So keep an eye out in the Facebook group for announcements on that.
Thank you,
Amanda,
Amanda.
tell them how many books we've read since we started. We started at COVID.
We started in April of 2020. So I think we've read 1 book a month since then. So that should put us at what, 18 books? 19 books?
It's amazing. 18 books I wouldn't have read. So.
Yeah, and it's really fun because it gives us like a shared sense of, you'll find people making references. Oh, well, you know, back when we read this book, we learned this piece of information, and it's really fun to have a
Right.
shared knowledge base to build off of.
Mhm.
So if you haven't attended book club yet, I will tell you that it is a wonderful experience. And Amanda is a fantastic leader of the group. And when she says for the December, the special meeting where she's going to read something, it's wonderful to sit and listen to her read. She has a wonderful voice and a cadence when she's reading that is very, very comforting. I really, really enjoy listening to her. In fact, Amanda, I was going to ask you, you know, for our December guild meeting, we're going to play bingo again. But in the past, you have done things where you read where we got up and moved, or we passed something from right to left. Can you figure out something that we could do via Zoom that is similar to that for our December meeting? Could you?
I'm sorry, I can't do the finals that week.
Oh, what a bummer. We're going to miss it. Okay, well, we'll think about it. Maybe somebody else can do that. So we've got some more people who've joined our meeting, Jackie Ingstrom. And how are the knitted knockers coming, Jackie? Do you need any?
No, I've got a few hundred. No, I probably got close to 1,000. So I do actually, I was stuffing some last weekend, and unfortunately, I don't know who made them. I don't think it was anybody from the guild, but I've probably got 50 to 60 of them that were all knitted incorrectly.
Oh, no.
So they contoured the front and the back, so it comes out as a diamond shape rather than with a flat back. So I have to, when people drop them off, I'm going to have to look at them right away, because I hate to think of all that knitting that was done.
Well, the diamond shaped ones could become Christmas tree ornaments, couldn't they?
Right, yeah.
Oh, that's a great idea for the knitted knit.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I don't, you know, that's really, really sad, but I'm going to undo them all, and we can, you know, I can repurpose the yarn for people who want to knit them. It's just so sad that somebody put all that hard work into it.
Well,
And,
one thing I would say is if you have an excess of knockers, that's a good thing. That means
yeah,
not so many women are having their breasts removed.
well, there is.
I know, but we're
it's
making
just
more knockers, yeah.
Yeah, well, COVID has brought the knitting out in so many people, as you all know, and so we do have a lot of them. Even the national organization sent out an email saying, try to find a local clinic because we're inundated. You know, don't stop knitting them, but we're inundated.
Oh, so all these women
Unfortunately-
who are at home are knitting knockers, yes.
Yeah, and what we're seeing now, I think we will see more mastectomies in the next couple of years, because we're seeing ladies coming in who didn't get their mammograms in 2020 and who didn't get the mammogram sometimes in 2021. And now they're coming in, we're seeing big 3-4 inch tumors.
Everyone get your mammogram. In fact,
Mhm.
last month, which was National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, Jackie wasn't able to attend. So maybe you could do your little spiel right now about
Right,
breast cancer
yeah.
awareness, okay?
Yeah, because I was in Las Vegas last month, so sorry about that. But what we're seeing is a lot of ladies are coming in with bigger tumors, metastatic to the lymph nodes, and eventually, of course, that becomes metastatic to other parts of the body, and then we can't do anything surgery-wise, and you just have to be on treatment for the rest of your life. But we are seeing later stage disease, because people got their reminders in 2020 and maybe 2021 and then didn't go. And then you don't get a reminder. If you don't go 1 year, you don't always get a reminder for the next, although we are sending out 2 reminder letters yearly. So if you put off your mammogram, don't put it off and go. And if you feel any lump, go and get it checked out. And even if you're under 40, because we are also seeing an increase in under 40-year-olds as well. And that tends to be much more aggressive. So yeah, we've had, and this is normally our busy time of year because everybody's trying to get things done before the end of the year. But just in the last 3 weeks, we've had 15 new patients, and many of them with more advanced disease that need to have chemotherapy first because it's too big.
For
And
those
so-
of you who don't know, Jackie is a breast cancer nurse at our local Adventist Health Cancer Center. And
Yeah.
so she's in the forefront of dealing with this, and the information she's giving you is current and accurate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're seeing it, and it's nationwide. They're seeing it the same nationwide as what we're seeing, that people are coming in with more advanced stages of all types of cancer, And breast cancer is the second most common one for women, with the other one being skin cancer first. But if we catch it early, we can cure it. And so that's why we in breast
Right, that's
exams,
a
it's
check your
important.
breasts.
Yeah.
Check your breasts. When you're taking a shower or a bath,
Mhm.
feel your breast tissue. Feel it superficially, just under the skin, and also deep.
Mhm. Deep, and you got to check behind the nipple. People forget that. They don't like to touch the nipple, but you need to check that, and under your arms. And then
Yes,
look at the breast in the mirror. If you look at your breast in the mirror with your arms up, then out, then your hands on your hips and round your shoulders, and you look at the breast, and if there's some puckering or dimpling anywhere, that needs to be checked.
exactly.
So, and don't be
Unless
shy.
you're-
You can
unless you're
call me
really
and I'll
old-
help you get them
Unless
checked.
you're really old and you got big saggy boobs.
Hey,
Yeah.
watch it there.
Well,
I
you know,
resemble
it's,
that remark.
It's easier to
and
get
if
a
you're too shy,
mammogram.
you just call me and I'll get you to the right place.
Okay, so next Saturday is our social knitting Saturday, and that's when we just get on here and talk and share our knitting and drink coffee together and have a good time. You're welcome to join us for that. And it's at the same time, same Zoom link as this. Now, I sent out the Guild newsletter yesterday or the day before. It has the Zoom link for the book club in it. So, and also for those of you who don't know, we do have a Facebook group. It's called What the Knit Guild. That's our Facebook group. And there are a lot of people in that Facebook group who don't belong to our guild, but they still kind of hang out with us in Facebook, which is okay. You're welcome to join that group. And that's where Amanda generally posts the book club information, although I always send it out in the newsletter too, so that everybody gets a chance, because not everybody gets on Facebook. Then on Tuesday and Thursday mornings at 9 o'clock, same Zoom link as you joined to join this guild meeting today. We also have social knitting. There's usually 8 or 10 of us on there for an hour and a half from 9 to like 10:30. We just get together and chit chat. It's informal and very, very fun. So our guild gets together a lot. And yesterday, a few of us tried going to Panera's to see what it's like down there, to see if we want to start getting back together face to face. And I think that it's a possibility. The Panera's on California Avenue, the one that's by the old Mervyn's or across from where Marie Callender's is, that area there. They have a nice outside area. And I think that let's try, if you're interested, on Fridays, meeting there at 10 o'clock. Their breakfast menu is good until 10:30. At 10:30, they quickly change over to the lunch menu. So if you want, you can get breakfast or lunch that way if you come at 10 o'clock. If you come at 10:30, you can't get the breakfast menu. And I'm telling you, they change it at 10:30. Even if you're in the middle of the line and ordering, and a clock turns over to 10:30, you can't order breakfast anymore. Judy, you have your hand up?
I can make a suggestion. What you do is you order online and you have a pickup for your breakfast at 10:15, 10:20, whenever you think you're going to arrive, and then you won't miss out if you
Yes,
want breakfast.
yes. So feel free to join us. Fridays will start next week. We probably won't meet the Friday after Thanksgiving, which is the following week. I mean, if people want to, they can, but you know, I probably won't be there. My son's going to be visiting here from Texas, but if other people want to get together. So Friday, starting next week, Fridays, 10 o'clock, the Panera's on California Avenue. And if you feel comfortable wearing a mask, you can. If not, let's kind of sit apart a little bit. But I think if we sit outside, we should be fine. And it's this is not sanctioned by the Guild. I'm just advertising it here, okay? Because if somebody gets sick from getting together, the Guild's not going to be responsible for that. This is your personal preference, your choice, understanding the risks of going out in public during this COVID episode that we're having. But if you feel comfortable doing it, come join us, okay? Bring your knitting, of course. Does anybody else from the Guild or any of the committees have anything they want to bring up or talk about? Claire, do you have anything you want to say about Guild membership?
And hear you.
Suzanne,
Yes.
You already
Suzanne,
mentioned
this
that
is-
we're up to 120. Thanks to Lisa Spencer. Woo, 120. So for next year, I'm a little concerned and curious to see how it's going to go for membership numbers. I'm afraid it might drop for reasons which are numerous. But we'll see. So if anybody would like to help me with membership, kind of maybe designing a new campaign, then I'm willing to hear all ideas.
Does anybody have any ideas? Or they want to help out with Claire?
You know, just how to approach it this year, because last year we really thought that we were going to be coming out of this quarantine pandemic stuff. And now I think people are kind of in the habit of staying close to home and maybe not doing as much. That's what's happened to me. Now, that's not necessarily everybody else. So, you know, something that's going to, sorry, I don't have the words, just kind of reimagine how we're approaching membership and hanging on to everybody for the following year.
Right. What I worry about is I think that there are some guild members who are not comfortable using Zoom.
Right.
And I don't know how to reach out to those people. You know, I did have sent in the past in the newsletters that if they want help on getting onto Zoom, that we have people who are volunteering to help someone else learn about Zoom. I think though that also there may be some people who are worried about their data on their phones, if they only have their phones as their internet connection rather than having Wi-Fi at home or a computer or anything like that. And those people, they can get on without showing their face. They don't have to use video. And that way it doesn't use as much data from their, whatever their cell phone service is. They can get on just like there's Beth right now is not showing her face. She just shows her name. That uses a lot less data if you're just dependent upon your phone. For example, Kathy, I don't know if you could reach out to Cookie and all of that group. We miss them.
Yes,
Right.
we do.
You know,
I will talk to them.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Yes, so.
they're an integral part of our guild. You know, they've been with us since the very, very beginning, and we really do miss them. And there's quite a few other people like that. So if you personally are friends with other people in the guild that you or see are not getting on here, see if they do need help, because we have people that are willing to help them to get on here, because unfortunately, this is all we have at the moment, and we don't want to lose them.
I think that's a really good point. Rather than saying that we have the volunteers to come and help, I think of those volunteers, and you can talk to me as a point person. We should gather and say, you contact this person, this person, this person, who we suspect is in that group of not knowing how to get on or just hesitant about that. For instance, Cookie, I think she's the closest to me now. I could suggest if she feels comfortable going over to her house for a guild meeting day and using whatever devices we have, or maybe doing it ahead of time, if she feels comfortable, you know, if we're all vaccinated and et cetera.
Right,
And
right.
just being there in their environment and showing them how to do that.
Yes.
So it's going to take more of a hands-on, rather than saying, you're welcome to approach us. I think we just go after them.
Right. Right.
That
Once they see that it's easy, and I know that there's some people on here who probably weren't all that excited about using Zoom, but I think we try to make it comfortable and fun, you know, and it has been a way for us to really stay together. Marian, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
It's nice to be sitting in. I'm just wondering, when do we envision that we can maybe meet in person again? I mean, does it take having everybody vaccinated? Does it take having numbers down? I mean, it's, you know, I agree kind of with what Claire said, is we get used to like not going anyplace or
Right.
doing anything. And yet I think a lot of us are just hungry to have kind of normal social interaction that's not Zoom. I mean, it's besides the air quality, it's a beautiful day outside and I'm sitting inside Zooming, you know? So,
But do you
I
want to
don't
see
know, have-
Stephen West? Do you want to see Stephen West?
probably, yeah, I mean, that
Okay,
kind
there
of,
you go.
yeah, well, yes, but so, and I know that we could have Stephen West if we were meeting in person. So I'm just wondering, what does the board think? Or what's the consensus? I mean, are we gonna need to have no cases or fewer cases or no deaths? Or, I mean, does anybody else really care? Or, I mean, are we all?
Jackie, you have your hand up. Do you want to answer that? Jackie Ingstrom, do you have an answer for her?
Not so much an answer, but I know, and Amanda knows better than I do, that the cases aren't changing. They've been staying at our particular hospital between 60 and 70 for the past month, 6 weeks. You know, we surged up to about 100 at a time. But we're seeing there's a lot of people in the hospital, not necessarily from COVID, but the hospital's overfull every single day. But what I was going to say was we have been extremely successful at the Zoom. I don't know how other guilds are getting on and how, if they're having as many people still attend social knitting and guild meetings and all the rest of it. And I don't know that we've told all the people that don't come just how successful it's been. Because I think you've done a tremendous job to keep these people together. Other groups just have not fared as well.
Exactly. So my thoughts on it are that I watch the Kern County numbers every day. And the last week or so, they're kind of starting to trend up a little bit again, but they've never gone down to the numbers that they were last spring. Last spring, we were down to where we were having 14 new cases a day. We're still in the hundreds every day. And so, and another thought is, because we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, we do have liability. So if we say, okay, let's all get together in person, and someone gets COVID from someone else at the meeting and they die, guess who's liable? Our guild is liable. We have to think about that. So I think that nobody knows the future. We can't predict it. It's not something that's ever happened before. We can't plan it. We just have to keep a close eye on what's happening. We want to get together as soon as we can, as soon as it is viable. And I don't think we've set any benchmarks for that. It's not going to be like when there's 0 cases or there's 0 deaths. But if we see on the Kern County numbers that they're going down, 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 and they seem to be staying down, then yes, we could start getting, that's what we're doing this Friday, this coming Friday. We're going to start getting back together. It's a baby step. And Marion, we all get together several times a week, and everyone else has that same opportunity. And we have enjoyed it. It's been fun. It's part of our schedule. People put it on their calendar. They actually show up every time. And for those people who choose to not do that, it's their choice. It's their choice. And so they can feel as connected to the guild as they want or as disconnected as they want. But I know that there are some people, and Marion, you have a whole group of friends that are members of the guild who have not been participating too. Maybe you could reach out to them and help them get on Zoom, you know.
Yeah, well, we started to meet in person again. And then when the numbers got bad with the Delta variant, then we went back to Zooming on Monday nights.
Right.
And yet we don't have as many people show up for our Zooming Monday nights.
As you do in person, right.
Well, yes, and people are tired of Zooming too.
I know, but that's the problem, and that's why our numbers are starting to go back up, is people are tired, and so they're taking risks. And those risks are going to show up as increased cases.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate. So we're trying to just stay as positive as we can and stay connected as best we can until we can meet in person. But if you'd like to join us next Friday morning at 10 o'clock at Panera's and invite the other ladies, you're all welcome to join us.
Well, thank you. And one thing that we finally decided to try to do is to switch to a daytime meeting, and we are going to meet outside next Monday. And then everybody in our group is vaccinated and boosted. So, but then meeting outside with a lawn chair in a park is, you know, sort of an
Right.
added
Exactly.
assurance. So,
And the
yeah.
thing is with the Guild, you know, we just attended quite a few of us just attended the retreat in Portland, the TKGA retreat in Portland.
Uh-huh.
And they required proof of immunization and that you wear masks at all times, unless you're actually putting food in your mouth, even between bites, putting your mask on.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I guess people would chew well if you have to put your mask on between
Right.
bites.
Right, so that was required and they did pretty much enforce that. And we have talked about that in our guild meeting. If we make a rule, let's say we require that everybody be immunized to attend an in-person thing, who's going to enforce that? Who's going to go around and check that you have an immunization card that's been filled out? Who's going to do that? Are you going to do that? And what if they show up and they don't have your immunization card and they haven't been immunized? Are you going to tell them that they can't attend? So whenever you make a rule, you have to be willing to enforce it.
Yeah.
And you have to think about that. And you know, when you have a small group of people that get together, it's far different than when you have 120 members. Being in the healthcare profession, but retired, thank goodness, I think about these things, you know, because I feel as the guild president, if someone got sick attending one of our events, I would feel personally responsible. And I don't know if I can deal with that right now, you know?
Yeah.
And we've talked about that on the board. So I think that we cannot foresee the future. We're just going to have to keep doing what we're doing. And there is that room at Adventist Health that we may be able to use for free, which is totally awesome. And we almost started using it this fall. And then suddenly the numbers surged up again. And the hospital had to actually use that room as a command center for the increase in the COVID cases. So, and when we do start meeting in person again, it may be that we meet for a few months and the cases go up and we have to stop meeting and go back to Zooming and so on and so forth. Libby, you have your hand up?
I was going to say, once things get a little better, isn't there some kind of a form we could all fill out saying that if we do get sick, that you're not liable, that the guild's not liable?
We could try to find out about something, but we would have to get legal representation, you know, for something like that. Yeah,
Okay.
for it to be viable. Marion, do you have your hand up still, or do you have?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was.
That's okay.
sitting.
Does anybody else have anything they want to talk about? Fatima, you have your hand up.
Just, of course, America is America, Europe is different, but in Europe, we are now living what they consider the fifth wave. For instance, I know England is completely chaotic. Every day, I never know about my children what happened because they need to go to school. They cannot wear masks in the school. They need to wear masks in the corridor, but inside of the class, they cannot wear mask. And they are 16 years old. They get only the first shot because in England, they have only the first shot for over 16, not below. Okay, I'm all the time thinking. In Holland, for instance, from tomorrow on, they go back to many restrictions, restaurants and so. Of course, as you mentioned, rules are rules. Even if the government decided by rules, Holland is a country where the rules can be written, but nobody follows the rules. Holland is a country that is exactly example of don't accept rules, even if they are written. They follow their own rules. And Holland increased a lot. Hospitals are overbooked with people. In Portugal, the situation is a little bit better at the moment because we have 93% of the population vaccinated. More than 75 years old is already many people vaccinated, not as they expect to be. For instance, I am 68, not in December, I will be get the third shot. Things are go a little bit slower, but we are considering, the Minister of Health yesterday spoke and said that probably for Christmas we will have a lot of restrictions again. So this is example how in Europe things are going.
Leur ministre hier leur a dit que ça va chez eux parce qu'ils ont plus de 90%.
Françoise probably can say exactly what happened in France, but in Portugal is this. And we are considering the most safe country at the moment related to COVID at the moment, but nevertheless, we are really careful about that.
Barbara, you have your hand up. Thank you, Fatima. Thank you. Barbara?
Well, this is just, it's not about the
Elle dit
COVID issue.
qu'en Hollande,
issue.
c'est la cata. Elle dit les hôpitaux sont super pleins et tout. Mais elle dit en Hollande, il y a des lois qui sont
Hold on.
écrites. Vous pouvez écrire les lois que vous voulez, personne au-dessus.
Françoise, I'm going to
Elle dit
mute you,
au
Françoise.
Portugal, ils sont à peu près, ça va à peu près.
There we go. Okay. Barbara, go ahead.
I wanted to just talk a little bit, since everybody's on now, we talked a little bit about the bingo for Christmas meeting, but since we have more people who've joined, I just wanted to say that we did this last year. And what we did was have people email me, and I would email them back a picture of their bingo card, and they could take a paper and make a paper copy of it, and then use markers, stitch markers or beads or buttons or whatever you want to use, beans, to mark their card, because we do start new games. So that worked real well last year. So I'm anxious to do it again this year. So I'm going to put in the chat. Does everybody know how to do chat, or I'll tell you and then I'll put it in the chat. I'll put my email in there, and you can start emailing me for a bingo card beginning December 4th. Not before then, because I found that when we did it early, too many people lost it and couldn't find it, and then I had to do it over again. So we'll start on December 4th, and you can email me and just say, I want a bingo card, and I will respond to your email with a picture. And everybody's card will be different. And so my email is GGBTEACH, which stands for Great Grandma Barbara Teach, at hotmail.com, sorry, Hotmail.
And I'll
And
also
I'll put
send it
that-
out in the newsletter before, so you'll get, I'll put your email in the newsletter for the December, and you'll get it before that deadline for her, okay? And she's gonna.
And
write out
Suzanne
the-
has prizes.
Yes,
And
we'll have to
Suzanne
have
has
prizes.
prizes.
We're gonna have to figure out what, but the prizes will be good. We'll have a good time.
I have a donation for the prizes.
Okay.
I do too.
Anybody
have
else
one
that
of
has a
those.
donation, just let me know, and we can add it to the prize list. Anybody else have anything they want to talk about?
Hey, you know, if we didn't
have-
if we met in person, you wouldn't be able to meet this little bundle of cuteness.
Oh, how cute. You know, Stephen West is going to have his dog, Brioche, in the meeting today.
Oh,
Cute. Jackie,
Oh,
what's
my-
your puppy's name?
Billy, this is Billy. She's a little girl. She's 13 weeks old tomorrow, and she will become a big old golden retriever.
She's gorgeous.
She's been watching you all on Zoom. She likes to sit there and watch people's faces, and she likes to watch the TV as well.
Beth, you have your hand up. What would you like to share?
I just wanted to say, I think I may be speaking for more than just myself, but I really appreciate all the efforts that the Guild and the board has made to keep us all connected in this trying time. And I know this must be a tremendous challenge trying to figure out the best thing for so many people. And I just want to express my appreciation for all of our opportunities and what you guys have done. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. I appreciate that. And so is the rest of the board. It is strange, you know, thinking about how we could deal with this because none of us have been through anything like this before in our lives. So we're, you know, it's uncharted territory and we're just trying to do the best we can. We're not trying to we're trying to create as positive an experience as possible. And hopefully we will have our retreat next year, you know. To cancel it 2 years in a row, oh my goodness, that's unprecedented. Okay, so how many people are working on a shawlography? Raise your hand, your digital hand. You know how to raise a digital hand? Put your hand, your little handprint up, the little palm. There's 2, Francoise, me, anybody else? Oh, Christina, Christy, Cindy.
Judy.
Judy, I got Judy. Pam, you're working on one, right? Even though you've just started it. Anybody else working on one? Okay, so when Stephen gets on here, which will be pretty soon, we'll do that. Now, after his presentation, we'll do show and tell. Okay, and then we'll have a drawing. So the drawing gift today, the attendance gift today is a $50 gift certificate to this. It's a store in Portland. It's called Starlight Knitting Society. And it's from Portland, Oregon. And it's a $50 gift certificate to their store. So that is the attendance prize today. And after show and tell, Judy will collect everybody's name. In fact, Judy, you want to talk about that?
Sure. Let me put my hand down. This was a store that I actually got to go to. They have beautiful, beautiful things in it. So I was excited that they had a gift card. I thought it would be, oh, well, Amanda, what do you, okay, you've been there. Okay. I see your bag. It's really a neat store. It's huge. And I just, because I was there and I just enjoyed everything in it. I thought it'd be a nice, I was glad to see they had some online gift cards. So we'll try that one this month. And if you want to enter, you need to be a guild member and just put your name in the chat. And then I have my spinning wheel again, so we can spin that wheel. And we'll do it after Stephen's presentation. So yeah, just put your name.
Thanks, Judy. Cindy, do you have something you'd like to say? You have your hand up. Oh, it was just for your.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Gail has joined us and Dimitri has joined us. I'm just shocked that there are not more people on here to see Stephen West, but that's okay. He's going to be on here in just a minute, but he won't start until 10 o'clock unless we'll ask him if he's ready, because I think we're pretty much over the business portion of our meeting, unless anyone else has anything they'd like to add. I'm still working on people for the beginning of the year for speakers. If you have anybody that you personally would like me to ask, if you could send me a text or an email with that suggestion, I'll add them to my list of people to contact. Did you all see that Nora Gahn is now the editor of Vogue magazine, Vogue Knitting?
Yeah.
Yeah, the new Vogue Knitting lists Nora Gahn as the editor. I'm sure she's going to be really good for that post. We'll see how it affects the magazine. And I think Interweave is going through a lot of changes. Also, I think their editor just quit Friday. So we'll see who comes up as the new editor for Interweave Knits. Do you all belong to TKGA, the Knitting Guild Association? Yes. Is there anyone who does not belong to TKGA? If you don't, It's very worth belonging to. Let me go to, it's $25 a year. And when you become a member, you have access to all the prior articles that have ever been written in Cast On Magazine, which are educational articles. So when you join for $25, you have access to their entire index of articles, and you can read any of them. And the reason I'm saying this is because I have an article that was in the recent Cast On Magazine on pockets, and I've started a series of articles that are going to be on pockets. I'll be doing one in every Cast On Magazine probably for about the next 2 to 2.5 years to get through all the different possibilities of pockets. So you might want to look at that. And the whole magazine is just educational stuff. There's no advertising. It's totally supported by member dues. I highly recommend. It's a good $25 to spend. And let's see, how many people on here went to the retreat in Portland? Raise your hand. We had a very good time. It was very, very fun. Although we had to, it's the longest period in my life that I've worn a mask straight. You know, we wore masks all the time. You know, no point in wearing lipstick. You don't have to worry about bad breath. You know, you got your mask on all the time. And, but in class, I did teach 2 classes, and it was really hard for me to tell what people were saying. The students, when they were talking, when they were giving feedback, I had a very hard, because I already have a hearing impairment. When I couldn't see their mouth either, that made it really difficult. So let me check my email and make sure I'm not received anything. Everything's good. Okay.
Suzanne, Alice has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at, oh wait, Alice.
No worries. I figured you'd find me after you checked your email.
Yeah.
I was curious, how many of us here have done the shawlography, the mystery knit along with
So
Stephen
raise your
West?
hand if you've done the shawlography. I think
I'm actually in the process.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of us that are on here. 8, 9. That's pretty good. Are you working on it, Alice? Let's see.
I am. It's you might need your sunglasses because I got
Oh, I love it. Look at this.
like neon yarn, and I thought, oh well, I've got to like put this yellow in here too. So
Spread the purple out down at the bottom, the blue, so we can see the colors in between. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Yes, you could wear that at night on a dark night, you know, and people won't hit you.
That's true. That's very true. In San Francisco, I'll need that.
Yes, exactly.
So I'm still working on it, but I'm absolutely loving the process and the colors, and it's been a joy so far.
Yes, and it's fun to change, isn't it? So Cindy, share yours. Share yours, Cindy. You never get bored. Once you start getting to a point of being bored.
Oh, sorry, I was muted because the phone was ringing. Well, let's see. I've got it on, I need a longer needle because I can't really spread it out real well. And I'm in the middle of a row, so.
I like your colors.
Yeah, those colors are awesome.
Judy, do you have yours handy?
Yeah, it's not as big as those yet because I haven't been knitting much.
Let's see yours.
I'm still on clue 1.
Oh, nice.
Very pretty.
Those are pretty too.
So
let's see. Christy, want to share yours? Ooh.
Oh, look at that.
Wow.
So there's like all the colors in there.
Very pretty.
And then I'm not a fan of these I-cord things. If I never do one again, I'll be happy. That took forever. Took forever. So I like the mind-numbing parts. I don't like I have to count how many rows I do 185 million times.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Barbara, you want to share yours?
I'm also in the middle of a row, so I can only hold it up this way.
Very pretty.
It looks like a garden.
Very cheerful. Francoise, you want to share yours? Hers is finished.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
Isn't that beautiful?
Nice color.
Let's see. I know there's some more people. Gail, do you have one you'd like to share?
I do. I'm just finally on, I don't know if you can see it. I finally started
the stripes.
Yeah, the stripes. And it has lots of sparklies colors, and it's pretty you know, just the two colors, but I don't know, it doesn't show up real well. But it's
you have to lay it out. It has to be laid out.
Yeah, I'll take a picture when it's done, but I'm almost finished.
Pam has one.
I got to clue 4.
Pam has one too.
Oh, hold on, let me get Pam. Pam. There you are, Pam. Let's see yours.
Mine is in timeout.
Oh, okay. Yes. So
maybe next Saturday.
Yes. This is mine. I just started the stripes. So here's the right side. So here's
wow. It's so beautiful.
Nice colors. Oh, I love the purple.
I've got a lot of stripes to go. It takes me about 20 minutes to do a stripe. Here's my white section.
Very nice.
I like that.
Mine's going to be a wall hanging. I'm going to make it a wall hanging in my sunroom. So
it looks like Steven's on, or he's getting
great.
On.
Hi.
There you are. Let me make you spotlight.
Oh, fantastic. Hello, everybody.
You have no idea how exciting this is for us, Stephen, and we are so thankful that you are willing to join us.
Absolutely. I'm here with my assistant, Brioche.
Brioche is so cute.
That's my assistant, Stella.
Oh, hi, Stella. Oh, beautiful. Oh, that's beautiful.
They adorable.
So how old is Brioche?
He's turning 6 months tomorrow.
Oh, what a cutie. Look at him.
Oh, he's getting big. He's getting big there.
He's really big.
Maturing. He's maturing, I should say.
Yeah, he's getting really.
Aren't they fun? They are the most fun dog I have ever seen.
Yeah, they have fun personalities. And they're very good shawl and sweater models.
Okay, so everybody mute themselves unless you're going to talk, okay? It's personal responsibility to mute yourself. Okay, Stephen. So Stephen, your shawlography, how many of these once a year knit along things, the mystery knit alongs, have you done? Which number is this?
It's gone crazy over the years. We just did the 12th one this year. So shawlography was the 12th one. I started them in 2011 was the first one. And there was only 1 year that I did 2 mystery knit alongs in the same year. And I said, never again. It was too much.
The amount of the work you put into it and the professionalism and the videos and the directions is just brilliant. Totally brilliant.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I have so much fun putting together all the videos. I love not forcing people to try different techniques. I like to say encouraging people to try, but the mystery knit along, you never know what you're going to get. So if I say to yarn over 5 times, you have to do it. So the videos are a really helpful tool to make sure you know what you're doing. So yeah, we have a really good time. I have a little team of people around me that help me edit the videos and take the photos and everything. So it's a group effort, but we look forward to it every year. And then we also enjoy the aftermath of the knit along where we get to calm down a little bit, because it's so much fun, but it's also so stressful because the more people participate every year, it's if one thing goes wrong, I'm like, I don't want thousands of people to have to rip out like hours and hours of knitting, and I have to make it better every year. So you have to stay tuned. One of these years it's going to crash and burn, but it wasn't this year.
Yes, yes. So that's something I always think about too, is like, if you lead everybody down the wrong path, you know, they're going to hold it against you, you know?
Exactly.
And you worry about that.
It's high stakes knitting. So it's fun to knit along if you like, if people do the knitting as well. But I think it's also equally fun to not participate and just watch everybody freak out about their colors and the techniques. And
yes.
We always learn something new each year. So it's been 12 years, and yeah, it's definitely going to happen again next year. But I feel like the last 3 knit-alongs I've done, they've been a little more symmetrical and very action-packed with lots of techniques and textures. But I feel like I really need to freak people out next year and do something, I don't know, maybe something with beads and steeking and something really, I don't know. We'll see. Stay tuned. We'll see what happens next year.
I'll tell you what I love about your videos is that they're almost choreographed. I love the flow of your words, the flow of your hands, the movement. That is all. It's very calming. It's very, very calming. And you always make it sound like, yes, you can do this. You know?
Absolutely, because it's just knits and purls. That's what the most complicated techniques are. It's just the more you layer those stitches with the color and with the shaping, that's when the magic and the complicated visuals start to happen. But when you take it one section at a time, it's much more simple. And that's my favorite style of knitting, is deceptively simple knitting, that once you're doing it, you're like, oh, okay, it might be a little challenge. I'm not used to putting my needle through there, but I'm just doing that over and over. And the next section is really easy. So I like those effects where you get something intricate and beautiful, but it's simpler than it really looks. So that's my style.
Well, welcome to our guild meeting. And
Thank you.
I'm giving you the floor. It's all yours.
Oh, thank you, Suzanne. I have a lot to talk about because I'm addicted to yarn. I'm a yarnaholic, confessed, knitter, obsessed to the max. For about 16 years, I've been knitting, and it just gets more and more addicting. So I've learned to knit when I was in high school, actually, and I never put my needles down since. And I don't know if some of y'all in the guild here, I just realized the y'all. So I'm here in Amsterdam. So if you think I'm Dutch, surprise, surprise, I'm an Oklahoman, born and fled. I don't live there anymore, but I'm from Oklahoma, but I live here in the Netherlands. And yeah, I learned to knit 16 years ago, and I just never put my knitting down. And some of y'all that are watching, maybe you are, I call you relapse knitters, when you learn young and you have a break and then you start knitting again later in life. That hasn't happened to me yet, but it might happen maybe next year because of this little dog I'm obsessed with. He's a handful. So if I ever stop knitting, then you know it's probably because I'm taking care of this dog, and maybe I need to get him 6 brothers and sisters. So if I ever stop knitting, I might have a gap where I'm becoming I don't know, taking my dogs to dog competitions and stuff. That would be, I don't know, that would be too much. I've got too much yarn to knit through to get distracted with that. So I haven't stopped knitting since, and I reached this one moment, I think it's kind of a key moment I remember in my college days when I started collecting yarn very obsessively, and my roommates were like, should you have like maybe books in your bookshelf and not yarn? Like, it was everywhere. I made a hammock underneath my bunk bed in college and I filled it with yarn. And I remember having this moment of, okay, people are saying this is a bit extreme. All I do is knit, and every spare minute was knitting. And I just keep collecting more and more yarn. I'm like, okay, maybe this is a bit too much. And I stopped knitting for like a week or so. And I was like, no, this is not me. This is not right. I need to knit more. I just really need to, yeah. So, but I remember this key moment of, is this too much? No, I'm just going to make my whole life around knitting. And now it's evolved into having a yarn shop in Amsterdam with one of my best friends, Malia. So Malia is the other co-owner of Stephen and Penelope in Amsterdam, where I now live. And I just have no regrets. I'm so glad to live this yarny, creative life. And I just want to touch on, before I start sharing all the shawl samples that I have with me, you started mentioning that in the videos, the movement and the calmness and the dance and the way with words, it's all creativity, it's all related, okay? So I happen to get into it with knitting, but I grew up doing a lot of music. And maybe next year we might have to do a music themed mystery knit along. Maybe there could be like a song that we all learn week by week as the mystery unfolds, because I grew up in a very classical music household where my dad was a pianist and teacher, and my mom was a singer, an opera singer and voice teacher. And my grandmother was also a musician, teaching me how to sing, and she played piano and organ for the church. And my grandpa was the founder of the Barbershop Men's Chorus in Iowa. So you may know, the barbershop quartets that have been around for, years and years and years. So he founded this chorus, so where they sing barbershop music, but as like 80 men instead of 4. So yeah, he was like part of 4 guys that founded this big chorus in Iowa that did all the barbershop music. So as much as I'm obsessed with knitting, that was my family obsessed with music growing up. And it was like me and my 2 older brothers, and they took a little bit different path in life. We would do these family variety acts. We'd like travel in the Midwest and go to Iowa and Ohio, and we'd go to like retirement centers and nursing homes and we'd like dress up, and my mom would make costumes, and we would all sing and dance and play violin and play piano. We were like the Von Trapp family singers, but maybe a little more amateur, but so it was a really fun upbringing. My brothers took a different path in life. They became Marines, and I became a dancing knitter that moved to Amsterdam. So a little bit different. We're all collectors. They collect guns and I collect yarn. So we relate a little bit there. We love collecting things. I exaggerate a little bit, but they're sweeties, but we're about as different as you can get. And that's what siblings are for. So, but that was my upbringing. And I think that's where a lot of the movement and the creativity comes from. Because when I was growing up, we grew up very simple, very frugal. We didn't go on fancy vacations, didn't get all the fancy new gifts and toys. We were just used to entertaining ourselves with creativity, with what we could make and what was around us, and being really resourceful, repurposing things and recycling things. So I was really familiar with seeing fabric everywhere when I was growing up, because my mom and grandma were quilters. And so I was really used to the idea of a stash. And so when yarn came into play, I'm like, you can't just collect yarn per project. You need a room of yarn so that you always have the colors you need. And if it's displayed, then it's a collection. And if it's hoarded and in boxes and hidden away in your garage and under beds, then it becomes a bit more of a, a burden or a hoarding situation. But no matter how much yarn you have, as long as it's on display in your cabinets, in your kids' rooms, in your living room, in your secret storage unit that your husband doesn't know about, then it's a collection. So I grew up with the idea that whatever you love and whatever your passion was in life, that was the thing that would sustain you. And that's what would guide you through life and all your relationships. So I was never pressured to, be a doctor or lawyer. Nothing wrong with that. But I was really grateful for that upbringing, because that was just not me. My personality was not so set and structured to what most people did. It was really creative and really sensitive to all those things. So I'm going to show you where that all led. You may be familiar with a lot of these fun designs and shawls, but I started designing just about 4 years after I learned how to knit, with really simple designs. And the first designs I made, I didn't even think of them as designs. They were just modifications of simple shapes. My very first shawl was called the Boneyard shawl, a really simple triangle. And it's, it wasn't a new design. It wasn't even a new shape, but it was just my very simple interpretation of that shawl form. And I made a sample, and the owner of my local yarn shop in college asked me to write down the pattern for what I made. And I'm like, well, it's not a pattern, it's just a triangle. She said, if I show the sample in a shop, you all know this, if you see something in a shop, people are gonna ask how to make it, no matter how simple. So she's like, just figure how to write it out. And I called it the Boneyard Shawl, named after the Boneyard Arts Festival in Champaign-Urbana, and I put it on display. I popped it on Ravelry and was so surprised when people downloaded it and started making it with different colors and changing the border. So it all got started with this very simple idea that a design isn't anything new. It's just a variation off of what's already out there. And so I took a lot of, I think I accepted a lot of relief in not trying to stress myself out about making these grand, crazy, new, inventive ideas. I just started really simple. And as I learned new techniques, I wrote the patterns for them. And that's kind of how I think about designs, is just your take on shapes and techniques that are already out there and putting your twist on them. So I'm going to show you a few of the new designs and kind of where they've evolved into. And these are some of my favorite types of fabrics in knitting, where there's lots of color and a lot of fun stitch patterns. So it's always something changing throughout the fabric. So it never gets boring. This is the Fantastitch shawl, Fantastitch. And oftentimes when I design these projects, I don't always know where it's going. So most of the time when I knit a shawl, especially the mystery knit-alongs, if you've participated in those, I start with just one section and I just play and follow some texture fascinations. And this one I started with, I love this slip stitch cable. So I'm like, oh, that would be a really beautiful kind of ornate beginning to the top-down shawl. And I just start with a simple section and I improvise a lot as I go. So that means there's sometimes a lot of ripping out that happens, or I change my mind, or I run out of yarn sometimes. So a lot of the choices I make are very instinctual and they flow into the next design idea. So I like to think of all my shawls as swatches, and I don't stress out about each one being absolutely perfect or the final one. It's just what I feel like doing in the moment. And sometimes that's a little more complicated, or sometimes it's way more simple. And then I just let that feeling feed into the next design idea. Because as I'm making up one design and improvising different textures, I'll stumble upon some stitch patterns like this brick motif and go, ooh, that was really easy to do and really fun. So maybe my next design, I'll play with just that stitch pattern. And then it kind of results in this theme and variation style. So you'll notice a similar vocabulary in a lot of my designs that are very color focused, very graphic. I really like bold graphic details. And I love when shape and form meets color. I think you get these beautiful magnetic fabrics when there's some elegant, simple shapes that seamlessly melt with a beautiful color story. So this was taking that brick idea, and I started really small with these little bricks and increased the bricks to shape the shawl into these wide bricks that flow into a chevron border. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about when I'm designing something, is how can I use this and expand upon it in a new variation. So I never feel like I'm starting from scratch when I design my shawls. I always have way too many ideas to knit. I never get to knit them all. So it's just trying to catch that inspiration as I'm knitting. But it's very much a process of design that happens on the needles most of the time. So I really admire a lot of other designers that can sketch and make spreadsheets to size their sweaters and garments before they knit, because then you figure out all the math. And when you knit it, it just comes to executing the physical object. But I change my mind a lot, and yeah, it's not always the most efficient, because sometimes I have to knit a second sample because I don't always know what I do the first time. But I'm getting a little bit better. Is if I'm knitting something and think it's turning out to be something cool like the Fantastitch, I'll write down a row and then knit it. And then I'll write down the next section and then knit it. Or vice versa, where I'll knit one section and then write what I just did. And then try some other technique and go, ooh, that's cool. And then I write it down as soon as I do it. so that ideally I don't have to make 3 or 4 samples of the same design until it's a written pattern. And that's how I used to design all of my first shawls. That, like, Daybreak was one of the first designs that I would make a sample, and then I tweaked it and made a second sample and then a third sample to write the pattern. So it takes like several months of just working on one design until it's just a simple 3 or 4 page pattern. But I'm a little bit more efficient now. I've been doing this for 10 years, so I've learned a little bit from my mistakes in the past. But that's my favorite method to design, is to kind of make it up as you go. Because I find that when you play with that process of knitting and making up the color sequence and the textures as you go, you get a surprise end result that you couldn't possibly have imagined before. You can only imagine and think and plan so much just in your head or on paper. But when you really let go and listen to the colors and just try something a little bit different that might feel like a mistake, and then repeat it and make these different variations, you get these unusual, unique results. And that's what I like about knitting, is that you can make it all by hand and really customize the colors and make something more special than anything that's already been done, like a traditional shawl. You know, you can, make it a little more funky and more messy or more shocking. And I always like to think about the phrase, if it's for something that's gonna be worthwhile to be knitted by hand, I like to say, if you're gonna make it by hand, you gotta make it grand, okay? So don't go too simple and safe, because you could always buy that in the store. But for me, I love just as much the color and the process of making something, just as much as the finished result. So if you're gonna spend all those hours making something by hand, like, embrace the imperfections and make different fiber combinations together that you can't find in a store or elsewhere. So I really love that personal quality about knitting. And that's what makes it so fun to write all these patterns. Like the painting bricks shawl is this one, is I get to do my interpretation of this motif and the colors, and then I like to hand it over as a pattern to you all to customize it with your own colors. And I always think of my patterns as a inspiration for you to make it better, okay? So I do my version, but it's always your job to take it to the next level and adapt it to your own color style, or maybe to make the border bigger, or take one of my 10 color shawls and do a 2-color version and say, Stephen, I love your colorful rainbow, but look at how sophisticated I can transform it. And I really love when people change my patterns and go wild with them. So I'm not so precious about, you have to follow rows stitch by stitch, because that's good. You'll get a finished shawl, but if you follow things so perfectly and you're that type of knitter that rips out and stresses out about a stitch being off, that's a less enjoyable process. And you're gonna fuss about all those minute details that in the grand scheme of things, they don't really matter. So in all of my samples that I show, there's always some row, or when you're supposed to do an increase, I forgot and just snuck in that increase later. So I'm a big fan of fudging it, okay? If you can't see it from a prancing pony, then nobody should notice. And if any of your friends notice that increase that's a little bit too loose in your yoke, then they're not social distancing and they need to take a couple steps back, okay? So don't let people get that close to judge your imperfections. Yeah, Christina says, I'm the fudge queen. Yes, queen of fudging it. I love it. It's so much more fun. You really go easy on yourself with those variations. So there's no mistakes in knitting. There's only variations. And when you repeat those variations, if you have an accidental yarn over, do a couple more and then just write that pattern down, okay? That's all it is. So this is what I was just showing you, talking about that yoke, where you can fudge those increases. If you miss an increase, just throw in an increase later. This is the painting brick sweater. So I do this a lot, where I take a stitch motif, and if I'm really addicted to it, then I'll do a shawl and a sweater and a hat and a cowl and just knit it until I'm tired of that stitch. But yeah, it's so much fun. And the fun thing about these graphic slip stitch patterns is it's not fair isle knitting or stranded knitting, where you're working with 2 colors at the same time. You're only working with 1 color. So that's kind of an example of what I was talking about earlier, where you get an impressive result by doing something really simple. You're getting that beautiful pattern by just not knitting. So if you can knit, you can do this. It's just a slip stitch. So you just knit with blue and then you slip that main color instead of knitting those stitches, and then keep going. So I love doing tricks like that where you're being lazy. You're not knitting those stitches, and that's what gives you the design, rather than fussing with 2 strands at a time and doing that stranded tension. I'm not against stranded knitting, but I'm a little more on the lazy side because I just like color. Color is the first priority, and then the knitting techniques and the textures are a little bit secondary to me. But it's always about color first. And that's how most of my designs start. They're usually with a big pile of colors, and then I take it from there and listen to if it wants to be a shawl or a sweater. Okay, I don't have enough yarn for a sweater, so let me add 10 more colors, and then I can make a sweater. So I just did that recently. I'll show you a new sweater that took that fantastic shawl that I was showing you. This large fantastic shawl that was just so much fun to knit. I'd used 7 colors for that shawl, and I dove into my DK weight stash to make this fantastic sweater. So it uses all of those same stitch patterns, but transforms that circular shawl into a circular yoke. So it was as simple as kind of copy and pasting some of those stitch textures, and just I had to do the math to melt it into the sweater structure. But that was a situation where basically my shawl was a swatch and informed the sweater design. So I love borrowing and stealing ideas from myself to make these new patterns. And this sweater, the fantastic sweater, is in my new print book called Hiberknitting. Hiberknitting 2 is the 2nd volume of all these cozy DK weight sweaters. And when I'm knitting sweaters, I don't remember the last time I've knit a sweater in one color, because that stresses me out. Because you have to pick only one color, and you have to have enough yarn of that one color. I don't remember buying like 8 balls of the same color in years. So when I'm yarn shopping, I'm a collector. So I like collecting one of this, one of that. Ooh, I really love this yellow. I'm gonna get 2 of those. And then you get to the register and they always ask you that annoying question at the yarn shop: what are you going to make? I hate that question. It's so stressful. Like, I don't know. I'm gonna introduce it to some yarns at home, and honestly, it might just sit on my shelf for a few years. You don't need to know that about me. Because collecting yarn is one hobby, and if you happen to knit with it, that's a bonus hobby, okay? So don't let yarn shop people stress you out about, now what are you gonna do with that? It's like, it's a collectible, okay? It's just pretty. Yeah, Christina says, it's just pretty. I like to pet it. So yeah, this is a fantastic sweater with DK weight yarn, and I used no more than 1 ball of any color in this sweater. And there's even moments that I really like to encourage you not to stress out about matching your colors perfectly, because I used these neutrals in the bottom, but I ran out of those exact neutrals that I wanted to do for the sleeve. So it's like just kind of similar, but it's not perfectly matchy-matchy. So yeah, the grays are a little different. Yeah, it's a little hard to say, but the overall impression is the same, but they're not the same yarns at all. So I just say yes and don't stress, okay? If you live by that motto, you're gonna love your knitting, okay? Because yeah, that's some of the most stressful things, is when you're making a sweater, you run out of yarn, or you start shaping the sleeve and you're not decreasing at the same exact rate as the other sleeve. And I used to always rip out and like reshape my sleeve using stitch markers to shape both sleeves symmetrically. And I just learned that when I was wearing my sweaters, like, as long as the sleeve is a sleeve, if I forget some decreases, just decrease later. And it's always fine. And if it's not fine, if it's too tight and cutting off your circulation, you can rip out knitting. So that's great, just redo it. But yeah, I don't strive for perfection in my knitting. I want to have fun while I'm knitting. So if having fun while you're knitting means to be perfect and to have 50 stitch markers and a sketch notebook and you're ripping out all the time, then live your life, okay? Do it, rip out your sweater 10 times. But yeah, it's not always necessary. Sometimes it is though, okay? I've had those projects where you have that moment when you're knitting. This is also something I've learned, that as you're knitting, we always have that moment of, ooh, you're trying it on and it's a little tight, or you're looking at your colors and second guessing the color placement. Ooh, it's a little too bright. And you always say, but it'll block out. That's like the devil on your shoulder. It's gonna block out, don't worry about it. And the angel is trying to rescue you, going, you need to rip it out. You know, that's not gonna fit. Remember that last project and the project before that that really didn't fit when you blocked it out? So I try to listen to that voice whenever I question myself and think, ooh, it's a little too tight there. Maybe it'll block out. As soon as I think that, I just say no. No, just put it out of its misery. And I'm usually frustrated because you spend so many hours working on it, but I just have to bite the bullet and say, you know, you've been through this path 100 times before, and yeah, it's not gonna block out. You're not gonna like the colors later. So you just have to put it aside, and it might feel bad because you may have spent days and days working on it. But my trick for making that better is to reward yourself and say, okay, this isn't working out. Let me put it aside, look at it tomorrow, and you have to cast on something new right away, okay? And don't feel guilty about it, all right? It has to be a beautiful color, a beautiful luxury feeling. You know, don't just do something to knit because you have to knit. Like, knit that dream skein you've been treasuring, and just, yeah, get something knitting in your hands that you just love and feel passionate about. And that's going to give you a break from that unfortunate abandoned project that goes in the work in progress corner, or some of you have a work in progress room that's like your kid's room with all, you just shove it away and you do a spring cleaning and you're like, when did I start knitting 30 sweaters? This is a bit much. If you have 30 works in progress, congratulations, that's entry level work in progress, okay? If you don't have 30 works in progress, you need to cast on 5 more projects tonight, okay? Because you need your simple project, your project to focus on, your challenging project to excite and challenge that math in your head. And then you just need, I don't know, a marled project, a brioche, yeah. You need a project for every category and every mood. And I know myself and a lot of you other knitters, we're very moody. So that's a lot of works in progress. You got to satisfy all those cravings. Okay, so let me show you a couple more really colorful shawls. These are kind of similar to the painting bricks, where it's that category of very colorful knitting with slip stitches. So this would fit into that cast on category of really simple and a project that you just want to enjoy the colors, but not focus too much on anything too intricate, because it's a really simple pattern repeat. And once you're knitting to about here, you cast on at the tip. Once you reach about this location, you should be able to memorize the pattern, because it's a really easy to read pattern with a short repeat. So the rest of it, you can just enjoy the colors. This is the Painting Honeycombs shawl. And this Painting Honeycombs is probably one of the easiest colorwork shawls that I've designed, because the motif is really simple and repetitive, and it's easy to customize. So if you want to knit your colors and bind off early, you could like bind off after any honeycomb stripe, or just keep on increasing and just get more yarn and make it as big as you want. So there's no kind of mistake in the size. It's just as simple as binding off early or knitting more repeats. And you can totally customize the colors using your stash or mini skeins. This is a little bit of a smaller size. It's not too big, but I used about 1.5 skeins of the main color. So that's plenty for a main color, about one or 2 skeins. I'd say 2 skeins to be safe is going to give you plenty of yarn for a main color for all these slip stitch designs of mine. And for the contrast colors, when you ask yourself how much yarn you need, the answer is enough, okay? Just get a pile and work with the motto of I'd rather be looking at it than looking for it, okay? So when you're picking out your contrast colors, I don't start editing my colors too much before I knit. I always have a bigger pile of yarn containing colors that I might not even use. But I'd rather be looking at my options than missing colors or running out of yarn. So when I was putting all these mini skeins together, my browns and reds and yellows and pinks, I think I had some blues and purples as well, but I ended up not using those. So you can always make those color choices as you knit, but it's never a good feeling to be hunting or wishing you had more colors. It's always better to, take out colors from your pile as you knit and go, I've got plenty of yarn, I'm not stressed about finishing, but then it's just knitting some stripes and listening to what's happening, because yarn lies. So when you have a pile, it might look pretty, but then once you start knitting with it, like that brown might get a little too soft and you go, oh, I really need to get more bright colors in my palette. So yeah, this is the Painting Honeycombs shawl, knit with fingering weight yarn. And then one thing that I really enjoy about the Painting Honeycombs and the Painting Bricks shawl is I think they're really good projects for those of you that are a little more color shy, because there's the main color throughout the entire fabric. And I find that whenever you have a main color in between all the other contrast colors, it helps things become a little more grounded and more harmonious. Sometimes if you don't have a main grounding color, things can get a little more crazy and clashy and color blocky, and it can tend to get a little claustrophobic and crowded in the color arrangement. But when that main color breaks up and frames all the contrast colors, it really forces them to get along. So you can put pinks and reds together, or put in some browns and yellow, like put in different types of colors, and it organizes them in a very systematic way. So you can basically get away with color combinations that might seem a little crazy in the pile, but the main color calms them down. And if you ever have a dark main color, that's always going to give you a really graphic, punchy effect. And that's what I like. I really like graphic, bold fabrics. And if you have a light main color, it's going to calm down the bright colors. And I have an example of that here in another simple shawl called the Botanic shawl. So the contrast color was all of these bright shades from a ombre yarn. But look at that white main color. To me, that was so surprising, because white isn't always the color I get so excited about in a yarn shop. When you have the whole rainbow in front of you and, ooh, I'm gonna get a bunch of white yarn today. I mean, that might make you crazy and excited if you're a neutral lover. But for me, adding white and neutral to my projects feels crazy and like, oh my gosh, I'm really stepping outside the comfort zone. So by putting white with all those colors, it might not feel like the most exciting choice, but what I find that those neutrals do to the bright colors is it allows them to shine even more. So sometimes by putting something in your palette that's, not your most favorite color, but if it's different from your favorite colors, it's going to give you that contrast and let them shine. So that white really added a brightness to the fabric, as opposed to the deep drama of that dark main color. So that's what's really fun about all these patterns, is you can customize and go, oh, Stephen, okay, I like that colorful rainbow botanic shawl, but I don't usually do too white. I feel like that might wash me out. You could do a smoky navy or something, a really dark blue, or a black as the main color instead. But yeah, that's what I love about knitting. You can always customize the colors and experiment with a new palette for each project. So yeah, this is the Botanic shawl with that self-striping or ombre yarn. And a lot of yarns in the States like this would be something like Noro, or Freya is a really fun one that has those ombre cakes. Spin Cycle is those marled self-changing yarns. So this is a great pattern to embrace those color change ombres. So it was 2 skeins of the main color and 2 balls of the ombre. Yeah, 200 grams of each color, and you'll have leftovers. So I love, love, love leftovers. And I do a lot with fingering weight yarn in all these shawls, and I'm a yarn collector, so I have a lot of bins and piles of all these colors, and I used to start getting really guilty about having to knit all that yarn. And then one thing that helped was reminding myself that collecting yarn is a hobby in itself. So, okay, that's fine, less stress there. And then making these stash busting projects was another relief, when I learned that you don't have to get new yarn for every single project, or you don't have to start with 100 grams of a color for all these projects. You can really customize them. Even if a pattern calls for using mostly a full skein of yarn, you can make it your own and make it more scrappy depending on the materials you have. So every now and then I get into these marled knitting obsessions where I take all my leftovers from these fun designs, and you get that really fine gauge, lovely drape from the fingering weight shawls. And then you start to get to this drowning stage in your stash of like, oh my gosh, where did all this yarn come from? And then I love marling it and holding 2 strands together. So this is one of my favorite stash busting projects. It's a really big triangular shawl knit in modular sections called the Jig Shawl Puzzle. So not jigsaw, but jig shawl puzzle. And every section has 2 strands held together. And then you get to knit twice as much yarn, twice as fast, and eat up those little leftover bits. So every section is really small. And even if you run out of yarn during a section, then just add a new shade. You know, it's okay. Whenever you run out of yarn in the West Knits world, it's never a problem. It's a magical color opportunity to make your knitting even better, okay? So I really love when I run out of yarn, even halfway through a row sometimes. I'll just change color if I run out, and if you don't have a matching color, then don't try to match and then it's kind of off. Just go bold and mismatch it, okay? So if you run out of this like pinky purple gray, do like bright orange to finish your section and like really make it a statement. So this got to the point where I was planning my colors a bit more seriously in the beginning. And then once I started knitting, I was learning that, you know, sometimes it doesn't really matter what color you use. So I find that whenever colors, you know, it doesn't really matter, there's so many colors, to make a palette even better and more enjoyable, just add 10 more colors to your palette and it's going to be even better. It's going to be amazing. So I kind of learned that with all these multicolored projects, is you really have to push and be really exaggerated with how many colors you use and how vivid or how saturated they are. You really got to push it and add more brightness, more quantity of colors, or you really got to pull things back and edit. I find that my least favorite projects are the ones where I'm second guessing my choices and I'm resting in the middle, where I'm like trying to go a little bright and bold, but I'm not really pushing it to the max, but I'm also not being too conservative and doing it so neutral. So whenever you're resting in the middle, I think that's when things can kind of get just messy and they don't belong. So you either need to add 10 more colors or take it down to just neutrals with a pop, or just stick in the blue family, okay? Don't get into those greens and purples and pinks. Just keep it real simple, real calm, or really push it and go bold. So don't rest, don't compromise with your colors. So yeah, this was just such a fun project to bust through that stash. And the problem I find that when I'm marling and stash busting, it's an exhilarating feeling because you're using all your leftover yarn and you're like, whoa, like I'm emptying all this space in my buckets and in my cubbies, that you always deserve more yarn because you're busting your stash. So that's just the, I don't know, it's just the physics of yarn collecting or something. It's like, yeah, whenever you use one ball of yarn and you see that empty space, you can put 10 more skeins in that single spot, you know, just cram it in there. But I get that high of like, oh, I'm using so much yarn. And then I go on a yarn shopping spree because I'm like, oh, I didn't remember having this gold color. I love knitting it. Let me get 2 more of those. I'm almost out. So it's an endless cycle. Yes, it's the addiction that keeps on giving back more and more yarn. Let's see, I'm going to show a few more little color stories. So like with this many colors, I've been showing all these projects that have so many colors. If that's stressful for you to like plan and pick, and like, how do I know if it's going to look like a clown mess or if it's going to look like a cool one-of-a-kind creation? You're allowed to do the S word, okay? You are allowed to swatch, okay? But it's not necessary because like I said, this is a swatch, okay? But you can swatch to plan colors. It's not necessary, but if you want to do it and kind of test out some colors, I do a lot of these little baby shawl swatches because rectangles are fun and we can all do that. But I really like doing these shawl swatches because now I can like put them on my little dog too, make these little cakes. But it's a little bit more interesting to do that construction method of making a little shawl. And if you like the shawl, you could just keep going and make a simple garter stitch shawl. So I do a lot of these little color explorations with my stash yarn. And what I love about swatching, yes, I did say that phrase, what I love about swatching, I don't tell anybody because I like to have the reputation that I'm an anti-swatcher, that I don't swatch, but I secretly have really enjoyed swatching this year because I find that it's a way of tricking your mind into making different decisions because you're not committing to a full project. You're not saying, oh, it has to be a beautiful finished shawl or sweater. It's like, nope, I'm just playing. It's not going to be anything. It's just going to be, you know, a little shawl swatch. I'm going to bind off early. So you can make different choices or more playful or more bold, or put a color in there that you even don't like. But it doesn't matter because it's just a swatch. It's not a full project. But then you might get things like, I loved this one. You might get some results that are really surprising. I thought that really bright yellow might be too fiery, too clashy with the orange. I wanted it to be really orangey. And I was like, in my head, I'm thinking only orange. Okay, orange, terracotta, cream, keep it simple, keep it styling. But then that yellow came in and I just can't resist because yellow is my favorite color. And to me, that's what brings it to life. Because it is nice with the orange. It's more subtle and rustic, and that's okay. But I really love when there's a little spark in the palette. And sometimes that's hard to do when it's the final project you're working on. You don't want to make a mistake or you don't want it to look too crazy. So allowing yourself to do these little swatches is a great way to trial different combinations without committing. So it's like going on a little date with your yarn. You don't got to get married. You don't got to have a lifelong commitment. It's just trying out, going speed dating with your yarns, okay? 5 minutes is up, okay. You can rip it out. You don't have to take their number, okay? Just try it. See, I love these little baby swatches. This little purple one. Yeah, and then some of these I'm real surprised. And I'm like, oh, that was so fun. Like, I never thought I needed a purple shawl or sweater. But I think I really need to do something with this palette. But then the issue with that is I only have these little bits. I need to go get new yarn to need to get some more yarn so I have enough to do a full project. Yeah. And then in these marled little samples, you'll notice a lot of them have like really fluffy textures. And I just wanted to touch on that briefly and relate that to what I was saying before, where color is my favorite thing. And that's how I look at yarn first. And I find that that's really helpful to think about your choices and your colors or choices in design into separate categories. So here we go. So I only look at color first, and I don't worry about the fiber, or I don't worry if the yarn twist is a little bit different. So again, I just say yes, don't stress, and I just pick the colors first, and then I allow there to be mixtures of like sock yarn that's plied with single ply yarn. And in the West Knit shawl world, it all works. If you get into garments, sometimes it can be a little funky, where you might get a drapey section and a more structured section in your sweater. But in most of my sweaters and shawls, it's really all about the color. So you can feel free to mix those plied yarns with the single ply and mix mohair and wool and alpaca in the same project. And it just makes it more dimensional and a little more flavorful. So you don't have to be too streamlined thinking that all your color choices need to be from the same cubby in the yarn shop. Okay, that's easy to do. They're all right there. But get something from that cubby and then mix it from the fluffy yarns in the yarn shop, and then put those together with some leftover sock yarn in your stash. And that's gonna just make things, more unique, more grand if you're making it by hand. So let me get a few, I'm gonna show just a couple more, and then maybe we could do some questions and answers if you're not on shawl overload. But this is one of my favorite samples to show because it really demonstrates how you can mix fibers and colors in a really bold, kind of over the top way, where it starts real simple with like lots of nice yellows, but then it starts to get a little crazy with some bold color pops. And it was wool and a little mohair, and I put this Angora stripe, and like that doesn't belong. It's just mismatchy and clashy. So I added some other pops later, and then it just started taking a life of its own and became this stash busting, colorful collage of stripes. So in this shawl, it's really drapey, and it's all knit on the same needle size, about US 5, 3.75 millimeter. And there's wool, mohair, Angora, linen, and silk yarns in the shawl. So it's really embracing different textures in a subtle way. They're mostly fingering weight, and some of them are lace weight. And if a yarn is a little bit thinner or a little bit thicker, remember, I say color first. If it's the right color, say yes, don't stress. And then maybe that thicker yarn is just a little bit more dense and a little bit less drapey than the neighboring sections, but it doesn't pucker, it doesn't flare out or anything. It's just going to affect the density of the stripes. And if it looks a little different and out of place, that thickness or that color, you either need to just not do it again, okay? You can rip it out if you want, but I find it works when you repeat it once or twice later. So I brought that blue back down here. And then you get a little bit more movement and purpose in your choices. But it was just so much fun to improvise all those stripes. And this shawl I was knitting with so many little leftover bits that I wasn't weaving in all my ends. So when you're knitting with this many colors, you're gonna get this bonus fringe. And this was before I started doing this trick that I call the weave in Steven, where you wrap and trap your yarn tails as you knit. So if you want to write this down or Google or put it in on YouTube, the weave in Steven, it's a super easy way to weave in your ends as you knit. So you don't need a tapestry needle and you don't have to sew. So it's a really relaxing way to work with a lot of colors and not feel stressed about the finishing, is doing that weave in Steven. And I basically stole it from stranded knitting. In stranded knitting, there's a way of like trapping the yarn tails and trapping the floats as you knit. So it's kind of a similar method where you're trapping the yarn tails as you introduce a new stripe. And you can get these beautiful custom collages with your fingering weight and lace weight yarns. So that's called the chevron shenanigans. It's a really bursting chevron shape. And then I'm going to show you the same sample. This is what I like to do when I sometimes I do re-knit my shawls. So if I knit it one way, normally the first time I knit something is really colorful because that gets me excited to cast on and excited to see what kind of colors are going to develop. It's kind of, if I only knit with one color, it's hard to get me to cast on something. I'm going to get bored, and so I knit with a lot of colors first, and then the second sample, sometimes I tone it down. This is the same exact shawl in a fade of neutrals. So it's not quite as graphic. You don't have those harsh stripes. And I knit the full size repeats. So this is a large size shawl, knit all the way to the border. And that smaller scrappy version I just showed you was simply just bound off early. I didn't adjust the pattern at all. I just did my bind off early, and it was a smaller size for the chevron shenanigans. But this is a beautiful example of you don't always have to go crazy. You know, if you put a bright yellow in here, that's going to be out of place. If you put bright yellow in here, then you got to put 10 more colors, okay? Or, you know, really go exaggerated. But this is the editing down version of keeping it just in the neutrals. So that's okay too, okay? You can have your crazy projects sometimes, but restore the balance with something sophisticated and calm. Yeah, chevron shenanigans. Yeah, so I love seeing that. And that's what I love most about designing in general, is sharing my versions and then seeing what you do with the colors. And then I always see some new ideas, especially in the mystery knit-along that's going on right now. There's so many crazy cool color palettes that yeah, just inspire you to look at your stash in a different way. Go, oh, I didn't think about putting that blue with that green shade. That's really nice, but it works because it's with that neutral. Okay, let me try that with my stash. Okay, I don't have that shade of brown. I gotta go shopping. Yeah. So there we go. I might check in on the chat if there's any questions that popped up along the way. Did you see anything that came up, Susanna?
I didn't. Everybody's just really enjoying watching you. It's very inspirational.
Oh,
You're giving people permission. I know almost everybody in this group, and I know specific ones that you've been speaking to, and how you're changing their life right now, because they are the ones that fiddle and fiddle over that one stitch that's in the wrong spot and rip back, you know, and frustrate themselves. And you're giving people permission to be more creative, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Because I don't like when I'm working on a project and it becomes something stressful, because there's way too many other things that have to be that stressful part in our lives. And if knitting is reflecting on that, I don't know, I don't like, yeah, it's too much. So yeah, with that little fudging, you know, adding an extra increase, I really try to encourage that, because most of the time it's fine. Sometimes you really do have to rip back, but it's usually mostly like if your stitch count doesn't flow into the next stitch pattern, that usually is more problematic when there's like lace or textured or cable slip stitch patterns. So sometimes you do have to rip back or increase in just the right spot. But in general, most of the time, especially with my patterns, most of the stitches are really, really simple. So if it's just a slip stitch or garter stitch, honestly, if you just sneak in an extra stitch anywhere, it's usually okay. Or sneaking it in that one little chevron repeat or something, then yeah, it's fine. Yeah, so don't worry too much about
the first sweater I ever knit, top down in the round, I had no idea that the increases were supposed to be kind of in a line underneath your arm, or the decreases. I just randomly put them in. It's still one of my favorite sweaters, you know. And I only knew knit front and back. I didn't know any other increase. I only knew knit two together. That was the only decrease I knew. And I love that sweater. I wear it all the time. So
yeah,
it's okay. Alice said, do you complete the mystery knit along before you publish it, or is it a work in progress?
Now, the last couple years, I completed it before the knit along started. There have been mystery knit alongs in the past, like the Doodler was one of them, where people cast on and started knitting, and my shawl was without a border, like without the last section. And I was still like, I knew kind of what was kind of going to happen, but I was having to work out the shaping and the math. And so that was a bit stressful, because I feel like people are 2 weeks behind me, chasing me really, really quickly. You know, I felt like a little rabbit with like a pack of hungry bears chasing, or foxes, you know, chasing my trail. So I really I was under that time pressure to finish it. But the last couple of years, yeah, I completely knit it and write the pattern before people start knitting. And I have some testers that are testing it as we go, because not only does, you know, I need to know what it looks like and make sure people have a pattern to knit, but one of my biggest fears is that everybody runs out of yarn one year. And sometimes that's still a case, if depending on the yarn type or people's gauge and all that. But this year I was proud because I definitely, I think I left enough yarn of every color that even if someone was really loose on gauge, they should have leftovers. But that's one of my biggest fears, is that people spend hours and 3 weeks knitting the shawl and come to the 4th week and then nobody has a finished shawl because, I don't know, I made some miscalculation or something.
So I'm curious, when you have this, you must get like a million emails and a million messages. You must have a whole team of people that help you.
Yeah, we've definitely grown and learned through the years, and I've learned that I can't do everything. And I have hands-on in every department, but we have people at the shop, shipping the yarn and all the kits that we put together. That's become a big component of my design process, is collaborating with different dyers on colors and designing for specific bases. So yeah, ship out all these packages, and we have people that just answer emails all day at the shop, and customer service and finding lost packages and all of that. And then I have someone else, Teresa. So if you ever email support@westknits.com, that goes to my friend Teresa, and she's in the States, and she helps with all my technical pattern support. And that was just the most grateful switch that I feel really lucky to have been able to do several years ago, to have help, because that's to me a big part about West Knits that I'm really proud of, and that I hope that we do well at. And if we're not, then please give us feedback. But I love being able to provide support and video links and encouragement and advice. So if people have problems with the pattern, they can always email support@westknits or see my videos. And that's another component that's really grown this last year, is the videos. And it's basically just me and my friend Mark that we do all the photos and the videos, and my little studio in Amsterdam. So he helps me by filming all the videos, and he does all the editing for all the YouTube videos you see, so that while he's editing the videos, I'm working on my patterns and knitting the next one. So there's a lot of simultaneous steps and a handful of people that contribute to the finished thing that you see. But
exactly, it really comes together. Alice wants to know if you would like to see our shawls in progress, or and the finished ones. We could flash them on the screen for you. Would you like?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love
let
to,
me
especially
change
in
the
this studio.
gallery view. And so let's see, Cindy, you want to share yours? And if I miss anybody, let me know.
Sorry. Let me try not to have my stuff fall off, because I'm in the middle of a row again.
Don't spread it out too much till they fall off.
Yeah, it'll be okay. You're gonna see it backwards. So I'm doing the brioche, and then where am I? There we go.
Beautiful. I love that green.
Yes, I like that orange.
It was fun to find it. I had told Suzanne earlier that I felt like it was a salad with cheddar cheese sprinkled on it. And now that I've said that, I can't unsee it. But the one thing I did do is, at the beginning, I started with this kind of a gold brown, but it ended up, it was a single, and then when it ended up being where the V's were going to be, I decided to change to a different yarn, because I was just afraid it was going to wear through. So I just kind of changed that out a little bit. But I'm having fun. I'm learning brioche.
Yeah.
Nice. You're persevering.
Yep.
I had to rip it out the first time, because when I went back and looked, there was a stitch that was kind of just hanging out there, and it was too far down for me to try to deal with. So I've just double educated my brioche this week. But I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Barbara, you want to share yours?
So I'm also having a lot of fun and trying new things, and I'm not done. Of course, it's still on the needles, but I love that you get us to try something new that we've never done before, and some of it was challenging, the welts for me were, I love how you do the welts, but that many of them, I had to tink back many times
Oh,
to
yeah,
get it
they're a
right.
little,
But it
sometimes
was
they're a little tight. So after I did that section, I really liked the effect. And then that was a choice where as I was knitting, you know, thinking, oh, maybe I'll do some welts later. And then after I did that row, I'm like, let's just do one row of welts. That's enough.
yeah, I thought they were great. I really loved them.
Oh, good.
So thank you. I've had fun.
Christina,
Nice.
you want to share yours?
Beautiful colors. Oh, I love that dark main color. That's really dramatic.
Very pretty.
Beautiful with that gold contrast color. You're on section 5, I think, those triangles. Nice, beautiful.
Christy, we
I think
can't hear you.
you're on mute.
If I don't have to do those I-cord loops again, though, I'd be okay.
Okay, good. We won't do those again. Yeah, that was another technique where I was just trying. I was really experimenting as I was knitting. And I'm like, this is a little funky, a little weird.
And
it
then
definitely has to go in a mystery knit along. People are gonna kind of love it or hate it.
I only grabbed it because it was right next to me, but this is what my boneyard shawl. This is my first one I knit from you.
Oh, beautiful. I like what you did with the border there. You
Yeah.
added some eyelets.
Yeah.
I have it here so I can sit and mend it one day, and it's still not mended because I finally found the yarn, but yeah.
Nice.
Alice, you're next.
Okay, this one came out really bright.
So cool.
I decided to put the green all in the center, and yeah, I'm just in the number 2, but yellow was calling out to me. I'm not sure what it was, but the yellow just had to like go in there, even though I didn't have it in the first section, and I'm not sure how I'm going to work it in, but it's going to be great on the dance floor if I ever go dancing again. And I think it'll look really nice under a black light too. So I'm loving the process and the I don't know, just the flow that you have when you make it. Your design is just, it's fun. It's a lot of fun to knit.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I really wanted about the mystery knit, is if there was one kind of challenging section, then you get rewarded later by doing something much more simple. But yeah, if you don't like one section, yeah, there'll be something else you do like later. And it's, yeah, definitely never boring. So it keeps changing and keeping you on your toes.
Francoise, your turn.
Yes. I just finished two days ago.
Beautiful.
And it was my first mystery card.
Wow. Did you enjoy it, or was it scary?
Oh yes, I really enjoyed it. Yes. Thank you very much for your pattern.
Oh, thank you. You did a beautiful job. There's a really crisp clarity in your color choices. It makes each section jump out.
Hey,
yeah. There's your shawl model.
Oh.
It's so nice.
Judy.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you.
Thank you. That's beautiful.
I'm not very far. I had to move, so everything got put aside, but I'm still on clue 1. So you can just kind of start to see, the colors that I have. So I need to pick it up. I have red, gray, white, black, and a gold kind of color. So
yeah, we're gonna see more of that gold in those later sections, and that's gonna jump out more later.
Right.
Gail.
Hi, mine is I don't know, it's hard to see, but it's kind of all muted colors. But I pulled these from a stash where I had, one of each. So it's been wonderful. And I love that when I came out with a really totally wrong number of stitches, that I could just fudge it and it still works. Loving it.
Yeah, as long as you get on track in that next section, it's with shawl shapes, it usually flows nicely.
Exactly. I can't wait to get it finished and blocked. I think it's going to be spectacular.
Yeah. Yes.
And
Anybody,
now
did I miss anybody? Did I miss anybody?
Suzanne, I have one.
Amanda? Okay,
Well,
Janie,
I'm
I'll get
started.
Oh, nice.
Yay.
I'm on my
Janie.
first wedge.
Okay, Janie,
got it
let's see
through.
yours.
Okay, let's see what you can see. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, I am on about starting row 5, I'm in the brioche, okay? And so I have enjoyed this. It has reinforced a lot of my knitting skills that I've used in other things, but it's been fun doing so many of them in one project. And the shawl construction, I've learned a lot. So yeah, it was definitely worth doing and a lot of fun.
Yeah, this one, it's a little bit of a mashup because you have that kind of semicircular shawl shaping, but then you have those sideways and short row sections that kind of twist things on their head.
It has fascinated me how you're increasing things and how you are putting the shawl together. So I'm learning a lot by doing that. Thank you.
Nice.
And here's mine. I'm working on the stripe section. I've got quite a bit of the stripe section to go, so I love it. Super, super fun. It's addicting. And you know, it was really cool. It brought a lot of joy to my knitting. It was very cool.
Oh, good.
Renee, you have your hand up?
Yes, I did not do the shawlography. However, I have to take this opportunity to show my Stephen West pattern to Stephen West.
Ooh,
oh yes,
that's a classic.
That I did. And now I can brag that I have shown it to the designer. Okay, that's all.
Renee, I think that one's better than mine. That's a really sophisticated burgundy and gray are just
yes,
so good.
It just came out really well, really nicely.
I love it.
Thank you.
Well, does anybody else have any questions they want to ask? Oh, Claire asked, how many yarn stores are in your area, Stephen?
Yeah, not as many as in like most American cities. I usually notice there's a lot more like per region. There's 3 main ones in Amsterdam that there's like some other yarn shops, but there's like 3 really dedicated like yarn shops in Amsterdam, and we all have a lot of different styles. So we have a lot of hand dyed and a lot of natural fibers from all over the world. One has a lot of British yarns and Rowan yarns and all the embroidery threads and books from Rowan. And then there's another one that's a bit more eco-focused, more natural textures and sheepy wools. So we each have a little bit of a different flavor. But yeah, there's 3 main ones in the center of Amsterdam that are really easy to take a tram or walk to once you're in the center. So there's 3 here.
We're all jealous of you for living there. You know.
It's really nice. It's really, yeah, I like it because I also have never like driven, so I love biking, and I put Brioche in my little bike basket, and he loves having the wind in his ears, and I just love being outside, and you just bike and walk everywhere in the city. So it's really tight and close, and yeah, it's a really pretty, beautiful place to be, and I like it when it's cold and rainy. So Amsterdam's kind of like Seattle. It's always overcast and gloomy and sweater weather.
Sweater weather, yes. So Barbara wants to know, do you have any knitting guilds where you live?
Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware. I'm sure there's some guilds in the Netherlands, especially in the south. And when you get towards Belgium, there's a lot of embroidery and weaving that happens. So yeah, I couldn't recall the names, but I'm sure there's some guilds, especially for spinning, weaving, and embroidery. And down when you get in Belgium, I've met some knitters or some crafters that do like tatting and like cobweb lace, like tatting and fine embroidery, like really traditional.
The bobbin lace, bobbin lace.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's really impressive.
Jackie, you had your hand up. Did you want to say something?
Well, I did. First of all, I want to adopt you. Can you, are you up for adoption?
Yeah. Once I get back on the road, I need to go see all my traveling and do my mom tour. And
Other than that, my
get
friend
home
and I
cooked meals.
we went to your shop in Amsterdam when it was over 100 degrees 2 years ago.
That's very unusual.
Yes, and it was a beautiful shop. It's just
Oh, thank
cozy, sweet. We liked it. So
Thank you. Yeah, we're right in the center and we love it. We're right next door to a fabric store too. So you can get all your crafty
there was
inspiration.
one, your employees were amazing. They are so sweet and so nice. We went to the one across from you or kind of down. Dang, she was not nice to us. I don't know
Thank
why,
you.
but
I'll pass that along. We force them to be really friendly. No, they're just naturally really friendly. And we have, I think people in our shop now, we have, no matter where people come from, we have not myself, that I just speak English and un poco español, but we have Spanish and Danish and French and Swedish. And we have people from all over Europe working at our shop, and a lot of languages represented there. So
Very
that's
nice.
always a little intimidating for me coming from Oklahoma, where like un poco español was impressive for me. But a lot of people here, they speak like 4 or 5 languages. I'm just like, I speak fluent brioche.
Right. So speaking of brioche, do you get together with Nancy Marchand?
Yeah, she used to be my neighbor in my neighborhood, but now I live like a 15-minute bike ride away from her. But I was just at her house a couple days ago for dinner. She's one of my best friends here in the city, and also one of the very first people that I met when I moved here 10 years ago. I met her at a knitting group, and she was doing that brioche stitch, and I was like, what the heck is that? And she talked it through, and I was like, I don't understand. You do that, I'll do my other thing. And it wasn't until years later when I tried that brioche technique. And then she's just one of my favorite people, because she's from Indiana, and she's just got that Midwest, easy to get to know you, really humorous. And I just, love how playful and passionate she is about knitting, especially. She's doing really interesting things with texture and stitch technique with brioche.
Fatima, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I want to tell you, Stephen, that I had no opportunity to knit your shawl. I'm not really a shawl, but I live sometimes in Holland because my husband is Dutch in Rotterdam, but I go often to Amsterdam, and I bought long time ago your book.
Oh, thank you. The sweater book.
Yep. And when I bought it some time ago, when it was published in the market in Zwolle, and I want to knit all of them. And I love all of them. I had no opportunity, but I have in my needles here and yarn to knit this vest. And I really admire your shop. You said that there are 3 knit shops in Amsterdam. I know all of them. And this one in the new part also, new one. But yours is the most attractive shop in Amsterdam for knitting. Okay. I cannot leave the shop without buying anything, even only a pins or a bookmark or whatever. I cannot leave the shop with my hands free.
Oh, thank you. It's a candy store.
Yes, it is. And I love the bicycle outside.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we cover our bicycle and crochet. People are always stopping and taking pictures outside. And we love, and we hang all the yarn on hooks. I love that. I want to do that at home too. I want my home, like one of my rooms, to look like a yarn shop. I love when yarn is hanging on hooks. You can see every color, and it's like candy.
So the last 2 years I have not been there, but it's always in my list to go there.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Does anybody else have anything they'd like to ask or say? Well, Stephen, this has been one of the most delightful guild meetings we have ever had. Thank you so much. It was so inspiring and so uplifting. And it's, it's your philosophy of knitting, and just the joy.
Yeah, thank you. I love sharing what it's all about. And I found that, like, the more I knit, I think maybe some of you have been knitting more than me, but the more I knit, I feel like the more relaxed it should get and the more relaxed I feel. And then it just opens up new possibilities. And then you get these surprising colors and these surprising finished results. So that's what I love about it. It's never the same, and there's always something new to learn. And now that I've got this little pup, there's definitely going to be some little sweaters coming soon. So you can definitely look forward to seeing him decked out in some knit sweaters.
People can use the leftover bits and pieces from the shawls and make a matching dog sweater or dog shawl. Yes. Or hat.
Yeah, you need to publish your dog sweaters too. That would be so much fun to do.
Yeah, I'm working on one. You'll see some, maybe this winter. I worked on a brioche sweater for him, and I'm working on sizing it because I know as soon as you do something for one dog, people love their dogs. They're like babies. They're gonna want one for their big Greyhound or their Saint Bernard. So I got to do all the sizing. So I'm getting, a lot of my friends have dogs here, so I'm getting them to volunteer their dogs as models and sample sizes.
Oh, good.
So I can do it from the little petite Chihuahuas up to the Great Danes.
Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope that you'll consider coming back again someday. And if you ever tour the United States, we want to be on your list, okay? Bakersfield is way out in the middle of the Central Valley, but we'd love to be on your list if you come back to the United States. We would treat you very nice here.
Thank you, Suzanne. Yeah, feel free to drop me an email again and just say, so we always keep a spreadsheet too. So when I do go and travel again, that we don't skip anything.
Yes, yes. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for listening. We'll see y'all soon. He's going to sleep.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So, was that fun or was that fun?
Oh
That was amazing.
Yeah, I love him.
I think we're not going to have a show and tell. We can do that next Saturday for social knitting. My brain is full right now. That was so stimulating. I want to go in and just get all my stash out. Maybe that's something we could do also for December, is maybe flash our stash. You know, that would be fun.
I want to get hooks and hang them all up. That would be so much fun to have hooks hanging with yarn everywhere.
I know.
Yes.
The
So
only reason I don't do that is because it's so dusty in Bakersfield. You know, so we'll have to invest in some glass fronted cabinetry so we can but not get it dirty.
I have
Good
these
idea.
3mm thick plastic bags. Let me show you. I buy them by the thousands. And you've all got, the people who've been in my classes, it's what I put the class materials in.
Yeah.
So I put all my yarn in these bags.
Yeah.
So do
And
I.
then you can see it because they're clear, and it's like my shelf over here. Claire, remember my library?
Yeah.
I have all of my working yarn over there. I can see it.
It's good for seeing all the colors and what you have, but it dulls the vibrancy of the fiber. I wish.
Right, but it's better than nothing.
It is.
It's better than getting dust.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
So that was so fun. So Judy, are you ready to do our
Yeah, I'll give everybody a last minute if you want to put your name in the chat. It's $50 it's called the Starlight Knitting or the Knitting Society in Portland.
You got my name?
Teresa. Okay.
Judy, did you get my name?
Yeah, if you've already put it in, I do have it.
Okay.
But I just wanted to give
if
everybody.
anybody's come since we put the name
Yeah.
in. And if you belong, if you have other knitting friends that are in our guild, let them know what they're missing. They could have all attended this.
That was worth the $40 for membership.
Yeah, you only have to win one.
Absolutely.
I was thinking the same thing. You're right.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen.
Let me make you big. Oh, there you go. Good job. Oh, bring it down. Can you move it
Okay,
down?
yeah, hang on. Oops. Yeah, there we go. Okay, there's my little spinning wheel. Are we ready?
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
I don't see my name. I
Uh-oh.
put my name in the chat. Darn.
Katie's name isn't on there.
Oh,
Oh,
okay. All right, hang on. We'll do it again.
Sorry,
We're
sorry.
gonna do it again. I gotta get everybody. I apologize. Okay, Katie?
Yes, I put
Okay,
it in the chat. It was somewhere.
sorry.
you.
I try and do the best I can. Let me check.
Renee?
one
No,
more
there
time.
was a lot going on.
Okay, I'm gonna read off the names. I have Amanda, Alice, Barbara, Beth, Brenda, Kathy, Christina, Claire, Demetria, Katie, Fatima, Francois, Jackie, me, Jackie Engstrom, Libby, Lisa, Lisa Spencer, Marianne Harris, Maria, Mary Morgan Harris, Pam, Teresa, and Gail. Did I miss anybody?
Judy,
Laura-
put Janie Ryland. I put it
Okay.
in chat, but I don't know why it didn't go through.
How
That's all
about
right.
Marion Vargas? Did you?
Uh,
I don't see Marion Vargas. I see.
I think your name just went in, morphed with Mary Morgan Harris's, but I have you, Marion.
How about Renee? I don't see Renee's name.
Renee. Okay, anybody else?
Laura S.
Laura, okay. Did I put you down as Lisa, Laura?
I don't think so.
Okay. Lisa's here, right? Okay.
Yep.
Oh, no, Laura, I don't have you. Okay. All right. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Good job, Judy. Good job.
Okay. Thank you.
And
Sorry
Janie,
about that.
did you add Janie Ryland?
Yes, I
Yes.
did. I
Yes.
got Janie. Okay, here we go.
Here we go.
Oh, Pam.
Oh,
Yay, Pam. Thank you. Is that the third store we went to?
That was the really big one. I
Where
think
did
it, yeah,
we-
it was
You
the
get to
third
buy
one.
more yarn.
Judy, can you stop sharing your screen?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. Hang on, I lost all
Down
my
at the bottom.
controls. Oh, no, here.
Suzanne, where do we watch
Okay.
the recording? I missed the first couple minutes.
I will be sending out, I have to
Oh, a
upload
link.
it to YouTube, and
Oh,
then
okay.
YouTube will create a link and I'll email it to the whole.
Okay,
guild,
great.
the
Great,
link
great.
to the YouTube, okay?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And the meeting actually, the recording started about 10 after 9. And the
Okay.
meeting came on at 10. So if you go to the 50-minute mark, that you can skip the beginning of the meeting and go
Okay.
straight to Stephen West if you want. That was awesome. Brenda,
Suzanne?
Brenda.
Yes, I'm glad you respun because I would have hated to win 2 months in a row. I would have had to forfeit.
I was gonna say, you're too lucky, Brenda.
I'm not usually. My mom is usually the lucky one.
Yeah.
This was the prize from last month, Visible Creative Mending by Flora Collingwood Norris. Let me just say, it is an amazing book. It is so inspirational and it's beautiful. So if you haven't seen it before, I encourage you to check it out. I am loving it.
Go
Who's
to
the author?
You can buy it from Flora Collingwood Norris from her website. And she's going to be one of our speakers after the first of the year.
Oh, good.
That's something we should consider adding to the library.
Yes, it's a very good book.
Okay.
I actually bought 3 of them. I gave one away. I donated that gift, and then I gave one to someone else, and I have one of myself.
Who's the author again?
Flora Collingwood Norris. Barbara, you have your hand up?
Yes, I just wanted to give a public thank you to you, Suzanne. I was on my way to the cruise working on my great-granddaughter's wallaby, and I was at the point to do the neckline, the placket, and I could not figure it out from the notes that you gave me, I don't know, 10 years ago. And you just came through and texted me, and I finished it, and just love that little placket that you do. And Suzanne's always there for us, as well as other people in our guild who are always happy to help. And that's one of the things I'm always so proud of our guild, is nobody is selfish about their knitting skills or their help. So thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you, Barbara. To me, it's passing on the joy of knitting. That's what it's all about. And that's what I loved about Stephen West. It's just making it joyful. And he was speaking to Pam. Where is Pam?
Yes.
She had to, Pam, he was speaking to you.
I know he was. But I always have mistakes in my knitting.
But it's
I have
okay.
never knitted anything that's ever been perfect.
But it doesn't need to be perfect. It's hand knitting.
I
not
know,
machine
I
knitting.
know.
We're human beings. So I agree with what Barbara said. Everybody in our guild, you know, we were talking about this when we were up in Portland. We met a lot of other people who their guilds failed when coronavirus came. They failed. And you know, it's not just me, it takes all of us, and all of you have participated. Every single person that shows up and participates is what keeps this guild alive. And we're very, very fortunate. And I'm proud of you all. It's just, you know, we are an exceptional group in Bakersfield. We are an exceptional group. So with that, next Saturday is social knitting, the same link, and watch your email. I will upload this to YouTube. Sometimes it takes maybe an hour or so for me to get it all up there, and watch your email for a link so that you can watch this again if you want. Laura, you have your hand up?
I wanted to introduce myself. This is my first guild meeting. I'm a new member.
Yay.
And I live in Gardnerville, Nevada. But I watched Suzanne's things, posts, and somehow I ran across a couple guild meetings, and so I wanted to join your group.
Yay.
And so thank you for having online programs and meetings. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
When did you join, Laura?
Thanks for joining.
I joined 2 weeks ago or a week ago.
Good timing.
Well, welcome.
Good timing.
Laura,
Thank you.
Laura, can you tell us a little bit about Gardnerville and what, if you have a knitting community there or a store or?
Gardnerville is in the Carson Valley, just south of Carson City and below Lake Tahoe. It's about 20 minutes to the lake from there. It's high desert. We're at 5,000 feet elevation, and so we get some snow. When the passes are closed, we have the choice of going through Sacramento, basically through Sacramento or through Bakersfield to get over the mountains. There is a yarn store. It's Pioneer Yarn and Yarn Company, and they do have little, you know, group knitting sessions. We just finished the Sierra Nevada yarn crawl last month. I think there were 6 or 7 stores that participated, most of them around the Tahoe region, into Placerville, Auburn, Grass Valley, Nevada City area, and then of course Reno. There is a fiber guild there, but they don't really focus on knitting. So just individuals that gather together to do a little knitting together.
Well, that would be a fun trip. We could take the train. We could take the Amtrak up over Truckee to Reno.
Yes, you totally could. And it's a fun yarn crawl. It's next year will be our 4th year.
Well, let us know in advance. You know, that would be a really fun field trip. We call those
That would
field
be
trips.
awesome.
Yes, yes. We used to do that all the time. We haven't done one for a while. That would be very fun.
There's also direct flights from Bakersfield to Reno right now.
Cool.
Well, we'd love to have you.
That would be fun.
Isn't Gardnerville near where Romy Hill lives?
Yes, Romy is, I think, actually in Reno.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, so's Gudrun Johnston.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's see, Laura,
That
you're
would be
on
like
our
that. Now,
list.
did we have Romy as a speaker for our guild, or did I just do an interview with her on my YouTube channel? I
I
don't
think you
remember.
did an interview.
We could have her as a speaker, And who was the other person that you mentioned? Can you put their name over in the chat?
Gudrun Johnston.
Yes,
She
because
does-
they do stranded knitting, right?
Yes.
Yes, that beautiful, beautiful, beautiful stranded knitting. That would be, he would be,
Yes.
is it a man or a woman?
Woman.
I would love to have her as a speaker too.
Okay, yeah, good. Thank you, Christina, for putting that in there. Yeah.
Yes, so maybe we could get her contact information somehow.
Yeah.
If you could send that to me, because I would like to line people up for the first of the year. We could get Romy, she's awesome. I love her.
Yeah.
She's like Stephen. She takes these difficult things and make them seem like anybody can do them. You know, very awesome.
Well, Stephen's videos are so complete. They're so, anybody can do one of his videos because he is so meticulous with his instruction.
Yes, they're very, very good. I love watching them. And to tell you the truth, I don't watch other people's knitting videos because I don't want to be influenced by them. But I watch his because they're just enjoyable. They're they're complete. It's the whole, it's not just knitting. I like watching, like I said, the flow of his hands, the cadence of his voice, the whole thing. It's a very enjoyable experience. Okay, anybody else have anything they want to say?
Thank you.
So we're going to call the meeting to a close. I hope you choose to join us at book club on Wednesday nights or social knitting Tuesdays and Thursdays. This coming Friday, we're going to meet in person at Panera's at 10 o'clock if you'd like to join us. And next Saturday, same time and place as the guild meeting, is our monthly social knitting where we can share all of our knitting. So please join us then. And otherwise, I'll see you next time. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.